All right, so this week we're going to have a presentation on building resiliency through rest and self-care. Two of our members one member and one advisor, our co-president Alexis and our co-advisor Samantha, attended the virtual Active Minds National Conference where they learned these tips and will be sharing them with us this week. And with that, I'll pass the floor over on to Alexis and Sam.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, as Aaron had said, we are presenting on some information that we had learned at the Active Minds virtual national conference. So we're taking bits and pieces of different sessions we had attended. And this is gonna look a little bit different. As you can see this podcast, we're actually showing our faces, but you can listen as well. So right off the bat, we're gonna start off talking about empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. So essentially, it's imagining yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's essential for building connection, and it helps us help others. Especially relevant during our pandemic, there's a lot of stress, a lot of feeding off the emotions of others. We've got social media constantly bombarding us with, who's dying, how many people have died, different statistics, as well as struggles in our own life, our personal lives, with our families and friends, with our jobs and colleges. So one of the risks of empathy is secondary trauma, burnout, or something referred to as empathy fatigue. Empathy fatigue is defined as emotional and physical exhaustion leading to a diminished ability to empathize with others. Some negative effects of empathy fatigue is aversion to others, illness, chronic pain, physical and emotional exhaustion, substance use, and some people that are more at risk are first responders, doctors and medical staff, therapists, journalists, and others whose work involves opening themselves up to others' pain. So also really relevant with our pandemic going on. So how do we cope with this? Through self-care. And for me, that has like an internalized groan, because if you're a psychology major, like this is drilled into your mind, like self-care, self-care, self-care. But what does that really mean? So it all comes to the concept of brain plasticity. Brain plasticity is the brain's ability to adapt and change. So when this happens all the time. So when we're presented with a stimulus, we adapt and behave accordingly. And this is also how good habits and sometimes not so good habits are formed. We know that healthy habits can change brain function and structure, and frequent practice of self-care and relaxation activates the parasympathetic system, which puts our fight or flight at ease and lets us know that we're safe. And there's many types of self-care. Just for example, there's physical, spiritual, sensory, social, and mental. And those are just a few examples. And I'm going to pass it over to Samantha to tell you more about self-care and rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when we think of self-care, it's important to talk about self-care really starts with compassion for yourself, because when you think about it, the concept behind self-care is caring for yourself, and especially with us being mental health advocates and supporting students, supporting your friends and peers, really self-care is about caring for yourself first before you can, so that you can fully help others. And so having compassion for yourself before you can give that love and kindness to other people, like showing compassion for yourself. And also recovery and resilience are something that you have to do daily to be able to enjoy the full benefits of it. So self-care is something that we need to practice daily and be consistent with it, and practice it daily and infuse it into our life. So I want to ask everyone, what are some ways that you show compassion to yourself?
Trying not to overwork myself. Taking time to actually rest and recharge and not be doing something as a task.
Yeah, that's really important. What are some of the things that you do when you're not working?
I'm getting back into cooking. It's something I very much enjoy. Reading for enjoyment and not for a course or for work. And I've started taking a little bit more time going back on walking in the woods, hiking, as the weather's definitely improving. Leaving the technology in the office behind me.
I can speak about that as a therapist, for someone who, I do that for a living. A lot of my work is empathy and compassion for others. And self-care is so important. Otherwise, I would not be able to do this type of work. And for those who are going into this line of work, it's really important to have that, all those tools to take care of yourself. That whole thing of taking care of the caregiver, and it's not just for this profession. It's anyone who's working or supporting anyone in need, or just being human. I think we got to fill our cups first. So I think one of the things that a supervisor early on told me is, if you're going to care for others, then we never really necessarily see the completion of our efforts. And so having some kind of activity or interest or something that we can see that's completed, like a hobby. And so one is I run. There's always a start and a finish to that. And then it helps release endorphins, keeps me fit, keeps my head clear. So I do that. And then I also have a lot of just projects, home projects, arts and craft kind of projects. And then I also, I like to give gifts. That's kind of one of my love languages. I really like to see people feel good and happy. So that's different than compassion and empathy. That's just gift giving. So I feel joy in that.
All right, so now kind of switching from talking about self-care to sleep, which is also a part of your self-care and well-being, but sleep is really, really so important for your overall well-being. And so for the next few slides, we'll talk about how you can reestablish a sleep schedule and kind of rebuild your sleep routine. So why is this important? This is important because sleep is actually one of the best ways to be able to provide rest for your body, along with all those different type of self-care activity we had just listed. And having a regular sleep schedule synchronizes our master clocks, and so that maximize overall wellness. Sleeps also reduce stress, as well as improve your mood, metabolism, as well as learning. And so here are some tips on how you can reestablish a sleep routine, or go back and look at your sleep routine to see if you can make some adjustments so that you can get the maximum rest that you are able to. Going to bed every night at the same time every day can also help with that. So consistency, and it's suggested that you get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Also early morning light exposure can also help you with your sleep routine, just waking up in the morning, having that light exposure to start your day instead of waking up in a dark room for your morning. Also, again, with lighting, minimizing your exposure to lighting at the end of the night. So this can look very different for everyone, but a suggestion is maybe having screen time an hour before bed, changing your screen settings so that it's on night mode for a certain hour during the night, and also eliminating other source of overstimulation at night. So again, this could be not doing your homework an hour before you go to sleep, not playing a very intense game before you go to sleep, or not looking at computer screens before you go to sleep. I want to know, what is your sleep routine look like, and have you had any challenges with your sleep routine, and how you've been able to kind of adjust your sleep routine so that you can get better rest?
Well, this is something that I struggle with, as I'm not someone who is able to sleep at night, since for half the week I work overnights. So the way my sleep routine works is I find sleep whenever I can get it. And it's definitely something that's really important to rejuvenate and revitalize your body, to continue and not burn yourself out. So I don't completely neglect it, but I'm able to find it whenever possible. And I use anything available to me to help facilitate that and not avoid it?
First off, start by saying, I think sleep schedules and sleep routines are just so fascinating because everyone has their own little like ritual that they do before bed. Something that's really helped me maintain a schedule is learning to shut my phone off and keeping it in a different room. That blue light and that temptation of like what notification I have or what email I have to respond to, or man, I better check D2L. That really keeps me up at night. And then blue light messes with the chemicals in your brain as well, and keeps you up. So yeah, learning to put my phone down. And I try to read before bed, something that's not looking at a screen, and helps me kind of unwind and reduce some of my anxiety.
Mhm. Yeah, for me, I definitely have a very bad habit of screen time before bed, which I'm trying to work on. But I found that something that has been very helpful for me is just not making sure that my bedroom is like the place where I sleep and not trying to do other work in there, just so my brain is already in that routine, like, oh, when I'm in this room, like it is just for sleep. And I found that I've been able to go to sleep much quicker since I've been able to make that change.
I've done something similar. I don't do any work when I'm in my bedroom at all, and I have a pretty consistent sleep schedule that I've been following for a very long time. So once the habit comes into play that this is the habit, it gets much easier to maintain, and keeping away from a lot of things right before I try to lay down does definitely help.
I can speak about that. As a clinician, I would like to say that I follow all of those, but I don't. And so I will share that. I certainly, I try to go to bed every night at the same time, at least during the weekday, and then because I get up at the same time. So that I think helps for those who are struggling with not being able to wake up on time. Just having a regular routine bedtime can be really helpful. But sometimes I do get up and I'll look at my phone. Sometimes I just need to get my mind off of what I'm thinking about, or that list that's in my mind that I'm trying to make or trying to get out of. Also, I think those of our audience who may be into their late 40s or into their 50s or 60s, it's because I know that we have some students out there that fall into that. It's the older you get, sometimes the more difficult sleep can be. And then also depending on the time of semester for those of you students who are, going into midterms or finals, stress can really impact your sleep. And so for me, I either read a book or I'll watch a little bit of something just to kind of get my mind off of it. I also have a notebook next to me, so I'll turn on a small lamp and I'll just write out what is bothering me or what I need to remember. So sometimes if I need to remember something that came up while I'm laying down and I don't want to forget it, then I'll just write it down, and then it just kind of releases out of my brain. Also exercise, daily exercise, oftentimes that helps with my sleep. Making sure that I don't go to bed hungry, also making sure that I don't go to bed too full. So those are all kind of tricks of the trade. And then also trying to relieve any kind of conflicts or arguments at the end of the night, or any big decisions. Leave those for the next day. So those are kind of tricks that I do, but I also break the rules sometimes because it just works for me.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to pass it on to Charlene, who's going to walk us through an exercise.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of clarify. So my name is Charlene Hanish Tyson. I'm one of the clinicians here at the Counseling Center in Eastman Hall. We're located on the 3rd floor, and we are open to students to come in and just to see a therapist about anything, mental health, chemical health, stressors, anything that is interfering in your ability to just kind of be a student that you really want to succeed at. One of the things that I actually facilitate a Finding Your Calm seminar, which is every Monday this semester from 10 to 10:30. There's also a colleague of mine, she facilitates the same seminar, and that's Thursdays from 10 to 10:30. And there's a Zoom link that you'd be able to find on our website, the counseling, the CAPS website. So one of the things that I do in that particular seminar, as well as I do personally, and I talk to a lot of my students about, is it's called the diaphragmatic breathing, or another way to say it is also four-square breathing. So if you think about a square, it has four sides. And oftentimes when we are nervous, anxious, overwhelmed, we're breathing, but we're really breathing shallow, especially if we're having a mild panic or a significant major panic attack, where our body is just tightening up and constricting, and we're feeling very overwhelmed. And so this is an exercise that really can be something that you can do while you're walking, driving, sitting in class, even having a conversation. I do this when I'm sitting in my sessions sometimes. If I'm noticing I'm getting kind of emotionally responsive to something that my client is talking about, I will regulate my own breathing by practicing this skill. And that is, so you can do this visually, or you can also just kind of visualize it in your head. You can think about the box, which is, like I said, four squares. And then you want to think about breathing in through your nose fully and just filling your whole chest cavity, as well as, just like pushing your abdomen out, filling your lungs through your nose, and then you're going to breathe out through your mouth slowly. And of course, this is all done slowly so you don't hyperventilate, and as well as it can be just a really relaxing, cleansing experience. And so I'm just going to do it 4 times, and you can follow along or just kind of watch so you have a good idea. And when I do this, I also really like to close my eyes if I'm not around anybody. I won't do that today, but you can just really get into it. And you can think about breathing in the good air and then breathing out the stress. Notice I did not say bad air, because emotions are not bad. They are what they are. And so we're just breathing them out, the ones that we don't want or let go of. So if you can just kind of just relax your shoulders, and you think about breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth for 4 seconds. And in for 4 seconds. And out with your mouth for 4 seconds. So that is, I encourage everyone to do that about once an hour. I find myself just automatically doing it. I don't always necessarily do the 4 square, but if I'm beginning to feel unregulated or overwhelmed, I will do that. I will just find myself just doing that breathing and then letting it out. What that does is it just really helps you center, ground yourself. Sometimes when we get overwhelmed, we begin to kind of disassociate, which is really just a little bit of an emotional kind of step to the side. So it's a way to bring yourself back into your body and lower your nervous system so that you get back to your baseline. Life is stressful, and so always come back to your breath so you can feel like you've got some sense of control. If you're in a major panic attack, that will not work, because at that point you're breathing too shallow. At that point, you just walk. You just walk and just talk about, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to relax, and I'm going to be able to get more control of my breathing eventually. And so then once that starts to lessen, that's when you can start going into your diaphragmatic breathing. Also, real quick before we end, I also really like to teach the importance of a body scan. You think about where you hold your stress. We hold our stress throughout our bodies. I tend to hold my stress right behind my shoulder blades, right on my shoulder, right in the back there, and I get all those knots. Also, I can get stomach aches sometimes when I'm really feeling tense. Also, sometimes my neck and my jaw could start to get fatigued. Also, if we have chronic headaches or migraines, that can be related to stress. So you start with the top of your head and you just pay attention. You start to touch and massage. Think about those stressor points, like right in your temples, in between your eyebrows, your forehead. It's amazing now that we're all looking at the screen so much that that's a lot of tension, a lot of input that's coming through. And so just massaging those areas, also moving down to your chin, your neck, your shoulders. So you're stretching and kind of massaging when you can, and then you bring it down to your arms. When you touch your arms, it's a really good grounding experience. Particularly those who've had some trauma where you're beginning to kind of emotionally drift away from your body. And so it's a way to bring yourself back into yourself and into your own conscious awareness. Then you can bring it down to your core, your abdomen. And this is with no judgment. Sometimes we have concern about our weight, but when we're thinking about self-care and self-compassion, and we're thinking about our core, this is our power. This is where we really hold a lot of our energy. And so we can really tune into that positive energy. Then we can move down into our legs and then begin to kind of curl our toes and move our ankles as a way just to let our bodies just decompress and remind yourselves to calm, be present, and then with a lot of self-affirmation that goes along with that. And then as you're doing that body scan, you can do your diaphragmatic breathing as well. Just so important to just bring yourself back to your baseline and practice self-compassion. So those are some tips.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Charlene. I think that brings it to a wrap. Resources will be in the comments as always. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye. Take care.